Angela Anderson, thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a landscape. Mark's laughing at me already. Yeah, we'll show you step by step how to do it live tonight. I've got my husband Mark here.
Howdy, Chef.
He is...
Oh, my mic wasn't on. Howdy, Chef.
Okay. It only works. The joke only works if your mic is on.
This is true.
All right. Yeah, so I'll be painting this beautiful landscape with some clouds in the water reflection. So if you've ever kind of wondered how to tackle a painting like this, I'll hopefully show you some tips on doing that. Let's get started. Alrighty, we are a mess tonight.
We came in hot.
I can't see the whole thing. I am using a 9x12" canvas. Thank you. Mixed media canvas board. Tonight I have not done anything to it. Just kind of done a little sketching with a little bit of a chalk to kind of get my water line and some of my major shapes worked out, but we'll work those out as we paint, so I'll explain as we go. For the clouds and things, we're going to want to have some kind of scruffy brushes. So I've got a Deerfoot Stippler and a couple of blenders for the foliage and the clouds. And then for the water, I don't need this one. For the water, I'm going to probably be mostly using my 6 Filbert here. I might switch to a smaller one if I need a little bit more detail. And then I've also got my 3/8" angle shader. These are all Princeton brushes, and there's a link down in the description to where to buy all of the materials that I'll be mentioning tonight. Let's go over colors. I'm going to spray them real quick. I dropped my water bottle and it's not working right anymore. I don't know what I did to it. Carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, quinacridone magenta, pyrrole orange, India yellow, cadmium yellow light, phthalo green yellow shade, phthalo blue green shade, ultramarine blue, unbleached titanium, titanium white, zinc white, and gloss glazing liquid. If you don't have these exact colors, just use what you've got that's similar. I usually do a cool and a warm of each color. So it's called a split primary. So 2 reds, two yellows, and 2 blues, and then you've got some convenience colors in between if you want, greens, oranges, things like that. I count my orange as a red instead of using like a cadmium red medium or a cadmium red light, but you can substitute either of those 2 colors if you don't do this bright orange. But I find that with the magenta and the bright orange, you can get just about any red that you want. And then the neutrals are there to tone things down. All right, what do we want to do first? Let's go ahead and start painting the sky. So I'm going to have some yellows, some blues down in the water mostly, and then the whites and pinks, a little bit of purple. I didn't put purple on my palette because I just didn't see a whole lot of it on here. So I think we will mix up this kind of dusky orangey color and have that to dip into while we're painting. If I mix a little bit of it ahead of time, I don't have to do it while I'm in the middle of trying to get the clouds in and that kind of thing. So magenta, a little bit of pyrrole orange, and of course this is going to be way too bright for our sky here. So we want to tone it down. The first thing I'm going to do to tone it down, and we also want to lighten it. So I'm going to use the unbleached titanium to tone it down and lighten it up, because it's got some yellow tone in it. It's got a little bit of like a neutral burnt sienna and yellow oxide in it. It's just basically white with a little bit of brown mixed in. So it will neutralize the color a little bit as well as lighten it up a little bit. So that color is good, but I don't think it's orange enough. So I'm gonna get a little bit of yellow and add a little bit of yellow. So far I've got magenta and pyrrole orange, but you can see what a nice beautiful red that is, and I might leave just a little bit of it in case we want to dip into it later. But let's go ahead and go to the next color down. And I'm adding a lot of this color because yellow doesn't have a strong tinting strength, and so you kind of have to add a pretty good amount of it to get it to change anything. And there we go. Now we have a nice orange for our sky. And then we can dip into that pink if we want. There is a little bit of purple and like a little bit of a dark blue that I'm seeing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of mix in all these colors that I'm seeing in the sky so that I can do it. And I don't need that much of this color, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up my yellow using a little bit of that orange and do another color. Very rarely will I use my colors straight out of the tube. They're just not meant for that. These are mixing. This is kind of a mixing palette, so these colors are way too pigmented. They are full tinting strength. They're not diluted at all. They're pure pigments, most of them. India yellow is the only exception. Well, burnt umber could be considered a mixed color too, and the unbleached titanium, but the rest of them are not, are pure pigments, and so they're going to be like way saturated and way too vibrant for most uses. So we're always going to be kind of either toning them down with a neutral or mixing them with another color to kind of create a little bit less of a vibrant punch. Okay, so that color probably not going to use as much of, but I am going to pull a little bit of it again, and this time add most of my yellow to it, and then let's add my white to it as well. So I'm going to scoop up a pretty good amount of white here, and I want to make a really nice light white, but that orange in there and with the yellow will tone it down and make it a little bit more of a neutral yellow, slightly muted. That's a pretty color. Okay, so that's still pretty saturated, that's still pretty bright, and it's still probably a little darker than I need, but it'll be a useful color to use while we're kind of working on everything. So let me go ahead and have that, and you can see when I'm doing this, I'm always scooping it up into a small area and having it in a small area to use. So I've got a nice string going on here of different colors that I can use in my sky, and then I'm just going to use what's left on my palette knife here and do a very light yellow with it. Just use what's left, try to smush off as much of that color as I can get, and I just like to use my blender here to squeegee it off. There we go. Okay, now we're talking. That's probably closer to what I want, and it's probably a little bit more muted than I need, so I might add a little bit more of that bright yellow to it. I'm all out of my bright yellow. And then let's put in some of the, and I didn't say hello, hi. Sorry, I just jumped right in.
You just went after it.
It always happens when I get a little discombobulated at the beginning. We were like getting ready, and I'm doing an interview with Patreon tomorrow about something, and they wanted like studio shots, and I realized like I literally don't have any pictures of me just like holding brushes going, hey, in my studio.
So we were taking some glamour shots.
So we were taking glamour shots since I put on makeup today for a change. And anyhow, and then I forgot that I had moved my camera out of the way. So Mark's like, "Are you ready?" And we're like, "Yeah, let's go, do it, roll it." And we started, and then I realized my camera's like over there, so I did like,
Oops.
quick. That's why I hit the beginning. Was so we were laughing because we were both like, "Oops, yeah, that would help." I have my camera.
It only helps if people want to watch what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they could watch the monitor over there. I guess that's where it was
Okay,
pointing.
we could do that.
I could just talk about what I'm doing, and I could be like, sounds interesting. All right, I think I'm gonna mix these two colors because I don't think. Well, I do see that. Never mind. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have that as another option that's a little bit more vibrant. Okay, so there we go. So that was that cadmium yellow light with white. And I still probably have some stuff on my palette knife here. And there's really not that much part of this sky, so I've got all these colors I'm like making a ton of paint for, and it's literally going to fill this part of the sky. But there's a little bit of it in my water, so we'll have extra for that. All right, so I'm going to spray this while I'm working. Make sure that they stay moistened. Get some more Quinacridone Magenta, and then I'm going to get a little bit of Ultramarine Blue and a little bit of Burnt Sienna. And the Burnt Sienna will just gray it out. When it mixes with that ultramarine, it makes a gray, and so I'm kind of making a gray purple here, and that'll be right at the horizon line here. There's a little bit of this color, and then I can mix it in with the rest of this, and it's not going to be this dark, so let's go ahead and add Unbleached Titanium, which when you add this yellowy white to a purple, it'll also mute it, so it'll mute it even more. Oh, that's lovely. Beautiful kind of plummy purple. I stayed heavy on the magenta. It's almost 50-50 with the magenta and ultramarine, and then just a little touch of the burnt sienna. Don't need much for it to mute it. I didn't want it like gray, I just wanted it slightly muted. So this is perfect. Perfect. What a pretty color this is. All right. And then for our sky and our water, we'll want some blues. So let's go ahead and mix those up too. If we do all this at the beginning, it's a lot of mixing, but maybe it'll also make it easier for those following along and painting along to have it all kind of pre-mixed, and then as I'm dipping in, you'll have seen it won't be mixing on the fly or to find whatever colors. I'm going to wipe down all of this extra because this is where it dries and gets little flaky bits into the paint. So clean all of that up so that I don't have a lot of flakiness happening.
So tonight's video is just mixing paint, and then next week we'll do the painting?
All right.
Okay, got it.
Yes, lots of paint mixing. Okay. So 50-50 ultramarine and Phthalo blue. It's our blue sky color. It's just a really good neutral blue. Ultramarine is more purple. Phthalo blue green shade is more green. And so when you mix the two together, it makes just a really good, like, plain neutral blue. And then in the water reflections, there's a little bit of green. So I'm going to get a little bit of the phthalo green and add that to that blue. Got a little bit more of the phthalo blue too. Probably a little bit more phthalo blue. I think I added too much green. Let's add a little bit of white. Yeah, I need a little bit more blue. So we'll go ahead and scoop up the rest of that phthalo blue and add that in. Okay, so that's a nice cyan turquoisey color. Phthalo turquoise is just phthalo blue and phthalo green, so you could use that, or you could use cobalt teal, but you can also mix it really easily if you have those two colors. So there we go. We use a little bit of this in the water. We'll probably mix it into that other blue there too. I'm going to put out more phthalo blue just so that I have it, since I used it all up there to mix. And let's get going. All right, let's get paint in here. I'm gonna, yeah, let me do one other thing though. Let me do a little bit of just phthalo blue and white, and maybe a little bit of, yeah, that's nice. Okay. There's quite a lot of grays and things that are in the water too, so as we work we can mix those in with these pure colors that I've mixed with these brighter colors. We can just add a little bit of burnt sienna or burnt umber black to these colors as we work to help mute them. I think this gets us a good start, so let's go ahead and jump in here and start painting. Are there any questions before I start? And also hi to everybody who's watching live. I'm glad you're joining us.
Yeah, no questions so far for the
Doing
painting.
good? All right. Hope everybody had a good 4th of July weekend. No firing mishaps. Fireworks mishaps.
We found that our youngest granddaughter likes
Yes.
the
boom booms.
the boom booms, the ones that make noise, but she does not like the smoke bombs.
Of all things.
The one that just sits there and makes no noise.
No
and
noise.
Makes colored
and
smoke.
just does colored smoke. She was terrified.
She's not
She
liking
was like,
that.
no.
The
that
stuff
is
that's
not right.
exploding and making noise and all that. Oh
Heck yeah.
Bring more
Let's
of
do
that
it.
on, please.
And kids could do without all
You
of it.
just never know. Yeah.
Our dog. All right. Yeah, you just never know. Nope. All right, I'm going to spray this all down with water here. And so this sky has got a lot of colors going on in it in a very small space. I've kind of sectioned off the top third of my canvas for my sky, and I might move it down just a little bit just because there's some trees there too. So this is a local lake, by the way, here close to our house, which we hardly ever go down to. Hardly ever. We moved here for so many years.
It's on the other side of town.
I think I've been on it twice, maybe.
Oh, geez, I don't know if
We're
I
not
have
lake
been.
people. All right. So adding white to the cerulean color for some sky, and I think I'm just going to try to get this in patches, and then we'll worry about blending it as we go. So I've wet down the canvas, so it's kind of going to accept the paint a little bit more easily. And I want to go on with my paints fairly thick. It's tricky when you wet down your canvas though, because it can get kind of soupy, so don't wet it too much. You just want it wet enough to for it to open up those fibers and move the paint around. I'm gonna get some of the blue, do the blue up here. A little bit more of that cerulean. Just trying to look at my picture and see where I'm seeing the little pops of blue peeking through, and just gonna put those in. And try to keep the edges wispy, no hard edges here, because that way we'll be able to blend over them more easily. So just kind of using a light touch. Put your paint down where you want it and then kind of wisp it out quickly. All right. Let's clean that out, and then I'm going to get some of the purple, I think. Go down here low, do the purple, sort of on the water line and just above it. You're only really seeing it in this little area over here. There's a little bit of blue down here too that's like mountains, I think, but I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of that. Wipe my brush out, get a little bit more of that purple, a little bit of white, and blend that blue out. Okay, so I'm underneath where I think my trees are going to go, so some of this might get covered by my water line, which is going to be, let's go ahead and just kind of mark out our water line. It's going to be kind of right in this general area somewhere. All of this is going to be, most of this is going to be on this side. It's going to have some tree in front of it. That's my son in his room playing video games. Get in a little bit of purple or pink.
Sue's open door. I know, I'm sorry.
Okay, some pink down there. Can get muddy really quickly, so I'm trying to keep these colors a little bit more, like not try to blend too much right now, just trying to kind of place the next color above. All right, and also going side to side with my brush strokes so they kind of get those side to side streaks. And getting a little bit more white here with my red. And then doing red coming out this way. And blending it over, just slightly overlapping. All right, now I need my orange, again getting white. Okay. I think we're going to be able to get this in one go if we do this right. So this is why we're pre-mixing all these colors so that we can work quickly and just kind of use the brush to blend these in. We'll have to definitely do a little bit of blending where the blue and the colors meet, but for the most part I think these are gonna look pretty good. All right, getting a little bit more of the yellow, so I'm just working my way down here from the purple. There we go. And again, just kind of doing side to side motions so that anything that, any of the visible brush strokes look like we are being intentionally, you know, that look like those layers of clouds catching light. It's really easy to mimic those cloud layers. Just keep your brush strokes kind of side to side instead of dabbing them up and down. We're getting a little bit more of that yellow, and let's go ahead and do some intense yellow up here. I don't know why I did cerulean over here because I'm not seeing any of it over there. Let's get some of that lighter whitish yellow. Dab some of that in. And just go in these empty spaces that I've created here, left the white spaces, and just go ahead and kind of fill in the rest of this with our white space, always doing the side to side thing so that I'm getting the feel of clouds. And I think over here there's a little bit of that cerulean blue. So picking up a little bit of that with this yellow, it's going to create a nice kind of greenish tone. Maybe not that green. There we go. And so one of the best ways of when you've got two colors meeting in the sky is to figure out what the two colors are and mix a third color using both of them. So if I've got this yellow meeting the blue right there, so I'll use a touch of that cerulean and a touch of this yellow and some white, and then just go to that border between them and just fluff it out here. And you can see it kind of melts away that line between the two. Also not adding a ton of paint here, keeping it very thin. Or well, the paint's not thin, but the application is. So just kind of lightly applying the paint and don't have a lot on my brush. Right, that looks pretty good. I like it. Let's let that set. We've got a good couple layers on there, and let's do our water, and then we'll come back up to the sky and continue it. But also need to keep my paints moist while I'm working. I'm going to use some of this gray-green color. There's a lot of it in the water here, so I'm going to go ahead and just use those same colors that I was using up in the sky down in the water. Get some of that cerulean. Maybe not that bright. A little bit more white in there. There we go. And then just figure out where my water line is and get maybe a little bit of that blue. And just do kind of a line across. We can tape this off later. For now, I'm just kind of trying to mark it so that I know where to paint things, where to paint my clouds and things. Okay. There we go. Nice light blue. A little bit more white. There's a little island right here. So I'm just kind of painting around it. I'll be putting it in later. But just painting what I'm seeing in the water for now. How you doing, hon?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Yep.
Good.
Just watching friends visit and talk, get caught up.
Chat doing well?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good.
Talking about weather.
Oh boy. Been a lot of weird weather lately. Hurricanes and all kinds of stuff going on. Heat waves.
Yeah, our grass is going to grow a little bit with all that rain.
Oh,
And then it's
yeah.
going to be sun and hot the next
boy.
week. So, yep. First world problems. If that's all I have to deal with, I'm happy.
Right. All right, so mimicking what I'm seeing in the sky here. Whoop. Down here in the water. Getting that orangey red coming up. Just doing it in the same order, being backwards, backwards order. So purple here, orange, purple, orange, that kind of thing. Right, get this orange here. Try to keep an eye on the placement. Try to keep it, in the general same area. The reason why it's whiter up here, normally if it was perfectly smooth, this would be exactly mirrored in the water a little bit closer, so you'd see the purple down here, but this water looks like it had some movement in it, so it's choppier, so you're getting waves and white showing up instead of the color. But over here, it's a little bit more glassy. There's not as much movement in the water, it looks like, and so it's smoother, and you're getting much more of a mirror effect to the sky. So I'm getting mud here because I didn't go in. I had that blue underneath, so I'm going to try to do this. I'm trying to wipe it off so I can get that blue off, because I shouldn't have brought that green so far down in that area right there. And that way. Okay, so let's try this again with less mud. I think we should be able to get a cleaner pink. There we go. A little bit purple right there. Ooh, that's bright. I'm trying to get the color tone the same. It's not that red. Or I can add the red up in here a little bit to make it match. And then orange.
We have a painting question.
Okay.
Let's see if my fancy thing works this week.
Okay.
Still put it to the side. That is weird. So they want to know if the paint was not able to be wiped up.
How would I have corrected the mud? I would have added more white to my paint color and probably needed to do 2 layers. So probably would have had to paint, not necessarily paint white on the canvas, but add white to my paints to make them more bright and opaque, and then put my brighter colors on top of that once it was dry. So, good question. All right, so you can see how I'm trying to kind of match up the colors. And you can do these simultaneously if you want. If it helps you, do one and then do the other while you've got that color on your brush. That'll get, you know, a much closer match than what I'm doing here. I was worried about my paint drying out, so that's why I didn't do that, because I was trying to kind of blend as I went, but really you can do either. And they both, you know, both are good techniques to do. All right, so getting this lighter, kind of more muted yellow here, and using that down here at the bottom. And filling in the rest of this with that. And then there is a little bit of that cerulean blue in there, too. Right in this, which is this little pocket right here. So just trying to get it in the same general area. I'm going to get some of that cerulean and fill in this spot here. Now this first layer on the sky is dry, so we can start going back and forth a little bit. Okay, so let's do this area over here, get some of that kind of reddish pink and add some white to it. Right here. And then there's a pretty good area in here that is sort of just yellow mixed with that green underneath. So I'm just going to use that yellow, kind of this area here, mimicking those clouds. This whole area here is going to be pretty dark, but I'm going to go ahead and try to kind of, you know, mimic what I'm seeing in the sky, even if it's covered. Okay, still using that light yellow color. I'm going to blend that out a little bit. All right, so now we're getting down into an area where we haven't done up there, but that's okay. We'll mimic our sky down here. We've got much more sky visible down here in the water reflection than we have up on our canvas. It goes up off our view on the photo, but you know, if you were standing there in real life, you would be seeing this blue up in the sky above you. So getting some of that purple and adding that blue mixture. And I think I'm going to switch to my blender brush. Make sure this is completely dry. Get a little bit of water on my brush, and I've got this purple, which is this purple and my sky color, my bright blue sky color mixed together. And I'm gonna leave it fairly dark, I think, because there's some really dark clouds here. But I'm gonna use this brush and just very lightly start scrubbing them in so they don't go on too dark too soon. And also so my edges can be blended out. And the paint is wet, but I'm applying it very thinly, almost like a glaze. And that way I can control how much of it's going on. Now if you scrub too long in one spot when you're doing this, what'll happen is you'll start to scrub the paint off completely. So you have to kind of limit how much you go over one area, like go over it and leave it. And even if it's not perfect, you can come back to it later, but you don't want to over blend when you're doing this. And this is kind of a dry brush type of method. It's like a glazing dry brush sort of combo where, and you can actually add a little glazing medium. It's probably not a bad idea since you're doing such a thin layer of paint, just to make it 100% stick. And also the glaze will give you a little bit extra drying time to be able to move things around a little bit. So I'm going over these light cloud areas and just adding a little shadow to them. And then if I want a little bit more intense color, I can go in and mix up a little bit more of the thicker paint and just dab it on instead of scrub it to get a little bit more paint. Wipe that off and then just push the edges around. And don't touch over the top of the thick where you want it the darkest. Alright, so that's pretty close. So I can see that I want a little bit more intensity in my clouds over here. So I'm going to get this. I'm going to make sure that this is dry. It's not quite dry. So I'm going to kind of work my corner here while that's still drying. Maybe add a little bit of this color right there. I think I might want this a little bit more purple, so I think I'm going to use the Ultramarine Blue instead of that mixture with the Phthalo Blue. And then add my purple to it. So it's a little bit more intensely purple. And once this feels dry, I'm going to go ahead and do a second coat with this. Darken that up. And since I've got kind of soft edges, I can kind of go in the middle here with this dark color. And I don't have to worry about blending it in anymore. I just kind of hit the middle of my cloud. Here we've got that transition color already in here. And if you're having a bad transition or if it looks funky, we can always go in and mix a third color. So what is the color next to it is kind of that yellowish. Maybe it's got a little bit of this peachy tone color, so I can mix that with this and get a transition color. And then just touch up those edges and soften them off. And you can also use Zinc White the same way. Zinc White's a good transition color, so if you have any areas, since Zinc White is transparent white, well, you can use it to kind of soften off your clouds and your transition areas on its own. It doesn't really cover so much as just kind of mutes, sort of like fog going over the top. So it'll soften the colors a little bit. Let's use it on its own over here and I'll show you what it does. Let me go ahead and put that brush away since I'm not using it. Okay, so here's the Zinc White. If you don't have Zinc White, you can use Titanium White, but Titanium White has particles that block light So you can't take the particles out of titanium white. That's what is titanium white. That's the pigment that's in it. Is that the particles are super opaque, and so no matter how much you dilute it, the particles are still in it. So it's not going to be as translucent or transparent as zinc white, no matter how much water you add. You're just maybe increasing the separation between those particles when you're diluting the titanium white. So it'll work. It's just not going to work as well as a zinc white, since it doesn't have those light blocking particles in it. If that makes sense. All right, so zinc white and some glaze, and again you can use titanium white glaze, but it'll be a little bit more obvious. So here we go. We're going to go over that. Look how pretty that softened it off. Adds a little bit of white light, like a little bit lightning, but not super obvious. Super pretty, and that's gorgeous. Really, really nice. And I'm loading it fairly thick on my brush here. It doesn't it's not like regular white. It doesn't take over and change things very quickly. It's very forgiving. You can, yeah, that looks really nice. Okay, so just kind of going in and putting our highlights on the bottoms of our clouds. The other colors should kind of bleed through a little bit. If it doesn't, you can always go back over the top of this. So I think the thing with clouds is just layering and doing thin layers, not overdoing, not trying to get them all in one go, but just kind of, I tried to get it as close as I could in one go, but then, we're going back in and refining and adding details. So you can add as many layers as you need to with acrylics, which is nice. It's one of the reasons I really like painting with acrylics. And as opposed to oil paints where you have to wait for things to dry between layers, you can do layering with oils obviously, but you sometimes have to wait weeks before you can paint on a thing again. And with acrylics it's minutes. So I'm a big fan. The only bad thing is that you can't do it outdoors as easily. So I am learning how to paint with watercolors right now so that I can do some on-location painting when we're on our vacations. That's coming up in September. And we'll be taking most of that month off from YouTube, but posting our kind of travel vlog. It'll be a little bit different than our normal content because we'll be on the road or in Europe. We'll be in England and France for 3 weeks. So it'll be really fun. I'm super excited about it. And also trying to figure out how I'm gonna do my art out there. So I'm just going through with my light yellow here, adding a little bit of that to my white, zinc white. Really pretty. Okay, I don't want to do too much in the sky because we've got so much water here, so I need to kind of cut that short. We're already at an hour, so I need to wrap it up on the sky. But look how pretty and soft and blendy that looks. Really, really pretty. I'm going to get a little bit of yellow and a little bit of my bright white and do a really bright white, yellowish bright white. This is the opaque color. And I'm just going to go in here and dab in just a few like really intense highlights in here. And this is where that opaque white is nice because it'll cover over these layers and we can get these really nice, intense, bright areas. I'm just scraping these in side to side here, thinking about where the light is hitting my clouds in my picture. And we can soften these off if they're going to dry a little darker, so I'm not worried about it being too intense right now. I think we'll see how it dries, and we can add more later if we need to. Okay, let's go ahead and add this to our water too. Try to look and see where I've kind of put it in here and try to mimic it. Nice. Now with water, I mean, you know, obviously we want to get as close as we can to what's happening in the sky, but I find that, you know, water is, you know, your reflections are moving a little bit, so I'm not as fussy with the placement. I feel like if you get it close enough, your eye's gonna like do the rest for you, and so I don't stress too much about having it in the exact same place or the exact, you know, color and the same whatever. Water does its own thing, so there is some, you know, obviously you want to get it as close as you can, but don't let it stop you from trying. The fear of getting it just right. One thing that I tend to do too is, like, if I have my horizon picked out, that's one of the reasons why I did that, is that I can kind of go, okay, this reflection is that far away, so I can do that and then get that reflection in the same spot, or at least close to the same spot, and see where things are lining up on either side. That way. Get a little bit of white. There's a little bit of brighter white for this area right above it, you know, and again, this far away from that, so if I know where that is, I can kind of measure that reflection, and then it kind of makes this shape here, so kind of trying to mimic that somewhat with what I'm doing in the water. And always in the water, I'm even more exaggerating the side-to-side motion, because there is a lot of ripples and things happening that is distorting the image. So we can be a little bit more loose with it. You can see that in the way that I'm doing the water. It's just that little bit more loosey-goosey, kind of wider and more blended, softer than up in the sky. All right. Pretty happy with that. Probably could have gone even a little bit, might go a little bit darker with my clouds up here now that they're dry. Get a little bit of that ultramarine blue and some glaze. And just do ultramarine blue right in the middle.
So
Wipe it out.
I have a question completely unrelated to painting.
All right.
When am I allowed to do laundry?
You can do your laundry. You just can't do my laundry. You can do your laundry all day long. Permission granted. I have had too many of my shirts dried on high for Mark to be allowed to do my laundry, and the clothes too.
Yeah, there was a comment from Jazz that her husband didn't wash all the grit out of the bok choy, I think, or something like that, in cooking.
Yeah.
I said, well, he's employing a good tactic. Which is, you do something bad enough and you're asked to never do it again.
Exactly.
Man, I can't cook, darn it.
Shoot. Yes. All right. Yeah, Mark successfully did that early on in our marriage, so he's not allowed to near the laundry. But he does the lawn, so I don't complain, because I don't have any desire to be out there, especially right now in the summertime. So, and he does dishes quite often too, which is nice.
I try to help
Yeah,
where I
good.
can, do the least amount of damage.
I added white to my ultramarine blue there to just soften off those clouds a little bit. Okay, I'm really liking this. I think that that's good enough, and I need to move on because I have spent a lot of time on that, and we're going to end up just covering most of that up. So let's just move on, shall we?
Okay.
All right. Gonna get this because we've got an hour to finish this, and we're only about a quarter of the way through it. So
Yeah, but all the hard stuff's done.
yeah, it's true. That is the hard part. Yeah, the
bushes won't be.
bushes. Yeah,
anything.
that comes together fast. I'm gonna add a little bit of white to this blue here, just to make it cover not so transparently. The ultramarine blue and phthalo blue are very transparent, and so they will just go on like glass. It just doesn't very see-through transparently. All right, let me get a little bit more white here. Over here, there's some white. There's some light blue along the shoreline here. The fun part about this kind of painting for me is that you get to do all this prep work and all this, and then as soon as we start adding the trees in, you're like, whoa, it like changes it so much. So it's gonna be fun getting to see that come together. I'm trying to blend in my light cloudy area here now. I'm just gonna do it while this is wet. Wipe that out and get a pretty good amount of white here. And there's some purple in here, so I'll add that later, but right now I just want to try to get the feeling of clouds in here, coming across. I'm just blending it out as I go. All right. And this is obviously going to have quite a bit of refining, but just trying to get the main colors on, the main color transitions that I'm seeing, and sort of soften off around where those clouds are going to go in that water. And the ripples are kind of coming at an angle, so I can kind of angle instead of going side to side. I'm kind of pulling down a little bit with it so that I'm getting some angled movement. That looks good. Okay. We'll add obviously some brighter stuff on there, but that'll be good for now. I'm going to get a little bit of this brighter cerulean blue and add it right in here where I'm seeing it. Try to blend it into what's already there. And then the rest of this area in here is pretty white. So let me get my yellow and white. And just blend across with that. Underneath this tree, I'm not really sure what's happening, but I'm seeing a little bit of kind of light-ish colors through. So I'll go ahead and just mix my yellow and blue together and do this area with that. All of this is going to be dark, so, but there are going to be little teeny bits of the sky peeking through. Same thing up here. I'm just using the same color up here so that it matches what I'm doing down here. Mute that out just a little bit more. Again, trying to think about, okay, that dark blue starts there, so try to bring that blue up so that I've got a little bit of that blue sort of in the same general area down there. Okay. And we've got our clouds. Let's get some purple. And we've got that dark bits of clouds right here. That is about right there. Wiping that out, getting some glaze. And I'm just going to kind of go over those edges and make them kind of zigzaggy. Wipe my brush out. Push that glaze around. This paint is wet right in the middle, so just kind of working those edges out. If I get too much, I can just go back in with my yellow. But I'm just trying to kind of get it close on this first go, and then as it comes up, it's gonna do zigzag again. And then go into that. Okay. A Z.
So what do you have going on in the Patreon world right now?
We are working on, well, we'll have our bonus video this weekend, which will be our last of the bonus videos for, and then we're starting on our, in August, we'll start on our beginner series, which will be a new
Deep dive
into acrylic painting techniques. But for now we're gonna finish up our, gosh, we've been doing bonus videos since the very beginning, so 2017, February 2017.
7+ years.
Right, so there's several hundred, or no, not
no.
several hundred, about
84.
Yeah.
Ish. 80,
We made
84.
a few of them public, though, at the very beginning, so I think there will be about 70 total paintings, because we did some as series that were like two-parters and things. So, but anyhow, we're painting another landscape, which will have some flower border around it. So it's like a landscape like this, and then we're putting poppies all around the border as a little added fun feature. And then in my higher level, that's the $5 level, the bonus video called the basic level. Gets access to all those bonus videos. You get access to all of that for $5 a month. All of the 70 plus videos. I haven't counted them. So I don't know exactly how many there are, but last time I checked, there was going to be about 70, I think. And traceables also for all of the videos except for the
Challenge
videos. The challenge videos are my weekly deeper dive into much more detailed, much more complicated paintings. We take a really complex image, break it down. We do design in there. I just finished the butterflies, so if you saw that painting, that was the challenge tutorial that we took 11 weeks to finish, and it had 20 something butterflies and all highly detailed and very realistic. So those paintings tend to be much more realistic. I tend to do the simpler things on YouTube just because of the time constraints, you know. All right, so this is dry now. This blue here. I'll pull out the...
I'll post a link to that short video you just did.
Okay, there's the octopus we're working on. So we tend to do... we'll be working on another... Well, I'm not going to pull them out right now. If you want to go on my website, you can look for challenge and see all the past challenge videos, and there's a lot of them on there. There's fewer than the bonus videos just because they take longer than the bonus videos, but we try to get them done 1 to 2 over 1 to 2 months, depending on what the subject is. Some take longer than others. That octopus painting is taking 4 weeks, so we'll have it done in 1 month, but the butterflies took 2 months plus, so 3 months almost. Yeah. So, but it's a much more comprehensive view of my my studio painting process. So you get to see the design and drawing as well as the painting.
Yeah, I just posted the link to the short video. It's like a minute and a half. Quick overview of the butterfly painting, and it showed little snippets of you using your iPad and changing things and doing stuff. So that's the kind of going into the deeper thought process and how to change and correct and think about composition and all that stuff. So, and you don't only get access to the current video, you get everything back to February 2017. So it's a lot of content.
Several hundred videos total.
Hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Yeah, hundreds. Yeah, that painting alone was 11 sessions, with most of them were about 2 hours long. So, you know, it's a more realistic, well, you know, if you're wanting to get a little bit more understanding of, you know, the design and composition and behind the scenes kind of stuff. Plus the chat is smaller, so I can chat and answer questions and get a little bit more personal, you know, with the you know, and there's a Facebook group also where you can post your work in progress, and it does not have to be just my paintings, which that's in my other Thankful Art public group. It has to be just my paintings because that way I can find them easily and comment on them.
Right, and,
you know.
and also doing that, it helps you see how people are doing and helps give you insight into how well you feel like you taught it.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
it's not just because you want to see your art because, like, oh, it's so awesome. It's
Right.
You want to make sure that what you're teaching here is
coming through.
translating,
Yeah,
and people are
for
picking
sure.
it up and understanding it.
For sure. And if they have a question or something, they
Yep.
can contact me too. So yeah.
So I'm just wondering, at the end, what you'll be painting on Stickman.
What?
What you'll be painting on Stickman at the end.
Oh.
Water, I guess.
Oh, I
Sunset.
don't know. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't mean to stress you out because I know it will. Thinking about it. Sorry.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it at all actually until you just said it. So glad you reminded me. All right, I'm mixing a transition color because I'm going to be mixing in this yellow for my sky, and I've got the blue. So I'm just making a transition color, mixing those two colors together with a little bit of white. And I've switched to the 3/8 inch blender, which this brush is one of my favorite brushes. I'd be curious to know what your favorite brushes are from those watching, because you can pop that in the chat. But also, if you're watching replay, pop it in the comments, because when I do the beginner sessions on Patreon, I do want to kind of have an idea of what people are struggling with, what their pain points are, with learning to paint acrylics. My whole idea behind this channel was just like, making it easier, more accessible. When I was learning painting, it was very tricky to know how to work with acrylics. There wasn't a lot of artists doing it in the instruction world. So Bob Ross was doing videos, but it was all oil paint, and oils and acrylics have totally different techniques. You can get the same looks, but you have to go about it much differently. And so anyhow, I just would be curious as to what kind of things you guys think that are your one, favorite brushes, and two, what is your biggest frustration with learning to paint, because that is one of the things that I'd like to help with, with these videos. It's kind of wanting to share my love of what I'm doing. I mean, I love getting to paint, and I think everybody needs to paint, which, by the way, we got Mark painting this weekend. Only Noah, our granddaughter, could convince Mark to. No, I've gotten him to the easel a few
on
times.
this channel.
You have.
I did
painted
one
a few
whole
times.
session myself.
Yes, you have. You have. I take that back. But we had it was so fun.
So the biggest thing that holds me back from painting is every time I go to do it, I wind up playing video games. So that's for me. But so we got people who have responded in. We got Filbert's.
Filbert's favorite. Okay. Yep.
Hopefully it's the brush, not the nut, because
you might not be able to be friends with them anymore.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't care for them. I'll eat them, but they're angle brush.
Yes.
Then we have the Aspen 6400 series brushes. Yes. The Deerfoot Stipplers, fan brushes.
Fan brushes, yeah. Okay. Nice. Those are all on my top lists for sure. For sure. Okay. So just kind of going back and forth now and trying to, make sure I'm getting kind of the same colors in the same general areas. Getting some white here. I don't know. See, this is interesting to me, that this cloud has the sun probably right here, but somehow in the reflection it's over here. So it's just the way the cloud underneath is coming through. So it doesn't, like I was saying before, it doesn't have to be like a perfect mirror image, especially in water. You're actually seeing the undersides of things. So you're not seeing things, it's not a flat plane that you're seeing. This thing is coming up over, and so we're seeing we're seeing up instead of out. Like this view is out and this view is up. So we're seeing things that are hiding behind the clouds here that are being revealed right here, which I find fascinating with reflections and things like in clouds. So that goes back to what I was saying before, that we can play with the placement of things a little bit, because nothing is going to be exactly the way it looks here in your reflections anyways. So don't stress out about, having it in the exact same spot, because obviously over here we're not seeing at all what we're seeing in the water right here in our sky. There's this whole area of light right here that's being revealed underneath our cloud. Okay.
That we don't see in the picture.
Right, that we're not seeing in the... And we're not seeing because we're not even if we look straight up from where this person is standing, you wouldn't see this exactly the same, because you're not standing right here where this water is. So the water is mirroring whatever is directly underneath, or at an angle or whatever.
Your field of view naturally cuts off what's right above you.
Exactly.
But you'll see it in the water.
Yeah.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just coming through here and making sure that, I've got some little scratchy areas here. I just want to soften those off, getting the white now. And I can use the Zinc White too in my water. Zinc White's great to use in water, but right now I'm wanting to get a little bit more saturation because I didn't put in the white down here, so I'm needing to cover up some of this. And now we are well beyond what we're seeing in our sky, so this is all fair game. We don't have to match it up to anything. You do you. One thing to remember, the clouds that are closer to you, so the clouds down here or up here at the very top, objects and clouds going to be larger the farther away from the horizon line. This is the farthest away from you, so everything's getting smaller here, and then as you go out on the canvas, everything's getting bigger. So these clouds down here are going to span a large area. They're going to be really large and spread out, and then getting smaller as they go up here. I'm going to use a little bit of this purple too. So I just was using that cerulean blue with my white. I'm going to use a little bit of my purple to gray this out. Use a little bit of that. Maybe get a little bit more of that light blue. I'm just going to push this all back because I'm going to have this bank of weeds or whatever coming out over the water here. I just want to make sure that I have a nice area for that to happen. Let's go down here, get some of our, maybe a little bit of ultramarine blue with that dark blue, adding, I still have that white on my brush. I'm just gonna put that nice and dark down here. Really intense color. Wipe that out, and then anything that's looking kind of But the nice thing about this is just that you can really press with it, really scrub that paint in. I can get a little glaze and use that. Darken up or shadow areas that are already painted. Give them a thin second coat. Go over the top of some of these cloud areas to soften off any color transitions that I need to. I'm not having to paint everything over now. I've got the color down. I can just adjust slightly in places. So put that color down. If I have too much paint in my brush, wipe it out, and then just attack the edges and scrub out those edges just to soften them off, just like that. All right, let's get a little bit more. Let's get some of this purple color and add a little bit more of that. Now, again, the one thing you need to watch for, and I'm going to do it over here on purpose so I can show you what I'm talking about. So if I'm putting this color on and I'm scrubbing, and this paint is wet, so I'm scrubbing and I'm blending and I'm blending, and I keep blending and I keep scrubbing and I keep blending and I keep scrubbing, what's going to happen is this middle part, let me wipe my brush out to replicate drying. This middle part this part starts to dry, and I'm still scrubbing, but now I've got this halo forming, and I'm going to try to add more paint, and it's just going to keep doing it because the paint is dry along here, and we're trying to push wet paint into an area that is not accepting any more paint. And I don't know why that happens on canvases, but it's really common when you're dry brushing to have these little halos form, and you can't add more wet paint to it and get them to cover. You can get them to cover a little bit, but if you continue to work it, it's just going to continue to happen, and you're never going to get rid of that like little ring of death that happens there. So I'm going to scrub that out so I just don't have that to work around. I'm going to be painting this dark anyways, but so you can scrub the edges. You really need to work the edges. That's the moral of the story. You put your paint down in the area that you want it thickest, and then you leave that center alone and you work those edges, and can always change that color in there later. But if you keep going back in and try to add more paint to an area after you've just set paint in and try to layer over the top of wet paint, it's just you think about a wet floor or whatever, and adding more water onto that, it's just fluid. It's all gonna mesh and move around, and it's not going to stick. So you have to let that dry, then add your another wet layer over the top. So you just have to layer that way. Make sure you're always layering on top of dry paint when you're doing the glazes and things like that, and dry brushes, and also not to over blend in one area and work and work and work on one particular area and expect it to work, because it's just gonna lift on you. And so put that paint down and move along. Let it set, let it do its thing. And if it's not perfect, you can always come back to it, but you just don't want to overwork the paint while you're doing it. And that's one of the most common problems that beginners have, or they go in and try to blend it by adding water, which basically you're just wiping your paint off at that point. So using some white, give me some nice bright white reflections here. Again, putting the paint where I want it the brightest, and then just softly scrubbing out those edges. How are we doing on time? Okay, I need to start on my trees. The water's looking pretty good. Probably would have liked to have a little bit more time to work on it, but this is pretty complex image to try to do on a Tuesday. I almost did it as a challenge video or something because it has a lot of moving parts. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of that zinc white, and I'm going to try to do some ripples. So I'm going to try to do some lines, and this might not be the best brush for this because I don't think it's kind of quite staying where I want it to go. There we go. Just getting maybe a little bit of the titanium white with a little bit of glaze and going into these areas and adding little lines. I think I'm going to get my smaller blender so that I have a thinner line happening. Let's go up here and do our water line too. My white here. The island's going to be somewhere in here, so I'm just going to scrape side to side over the top of where I'm seeing that water. To help create that ripples. Okay, now let me take this off. I'll have to let that dry real quick, but we'll need to tape off that and do our, when we do our tree line there. Let's do a few more of these ripples. Just scraping through. You can use the zinc white if you want, or the titanium white, whatever works. Just looking to see where I'm seeing these ripples and trying to kind of get some lines through. Very light though, don't, it's easy to overdo these, so trying to kind of just very lightly create a few little lines in our clouds on the edges of things. You probably need a smaller brush, but you're getting the idea, I think. Okay, let's go ahead and put our trees and things in. Make sure that's dry. I'm gonna get tape. It's just easiest to use tape. You want your horizon line to be perfectly straight. So I'm gonna get my T-square out and figure where my straight line is. Right
This
in
is
there.
where you get looking really, really cute using your T-square.
So I want to go just below where I'm seeing that color. So just below it. Yeah, this is about the only time in my life where I would use a T-square. That looks good. All right.
And hint, if you're using a hard-backed canvas panel like this,
A what?
a canvas panel like this,
Yeah.
don't wrap the paper on the back.
Right, no.
It'll stick and tear the paper off of it.
Yes, thank you.
May or may have not had experience with that.
We may have done that a few times.
We as in Angela.
Yes.
Because again, when I go to paint, I wind up playing video
Video
games.
Yeah. All right. So I want to stay about 1/2 inch or maybe an inch at the most here on these trees. And just go ahead and I've mixed up the phthalo blue, phthalo green, some of that blue that we had before, and some burnt sienna. And I'm just going to do little dabby trees. I can use this. This is the 3/8 inch blender again. And really dabbing it on there so I'm getting full coverage. Go a little bit more blue here. Maybe a little bit more turquoisey. There we go.
I think in at least once before during the Prime days, did we put any links to any of the stuff on sale?
I'm not sure.
Okay, wasn't sure.
Is somebody asking about that?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really monitor. I mean, we shop the Prime days like a lot of people, but we're not usually monitoring specific
They
items.
don't usually put the high-end art supplies on sale that I've found, so I haven't ever really, been like, wow. But if we do, we'll put it in our newsletter. So if you, I will for sure have it in the newsletter if I find a good deal. So, and we have lists on Amazon. If you look down the description, there's different themed lists, and I've got my travel art kit that I've been assembling for my watercolor supplies and different things in there, and just all kinds of different ones. So I'm using all these blues in these trees here and trying to do, just a variety of different things here. I'm going to get a little bit of the ultramarine blue, a tiny bit of white. I'm going to do just a hint of a mountain back here. And then just come back in with a little bit lighter color on top of that. Or maybe darker, actually. Never mind, I'm going to go darker. A bit darker. Just do a few. Finish up those trees down there. And then, come on, darker. This is where I was saying too much paint. I've got too much paint because I did that blue layer, and now trying to put that green on top is not gonna happen. I'm gonna get a little bit of that brighter blue, a little bit of white.
We got a brush question or two.
Okay.
They would like to know, what is the difference between a shader and a blender?
Ooh, that is, I don't know.
I would say one is a tree and one is something you make smoothies in.
A shader and a blender. Well, a blender brush would be shorter bristles probably. A shader tends to be like this one is an angle shader. So it's going to be a little bit longer maybe than a blender. These ones would be, well, I mean, the blenders are also thicker bristled. So, and this is a totally different kind of hair. So this is a softer. So I would think the shaders are maybe softer hairs, and the blenders would be thicker, more coarse hairs. But that's my observation, not expertise. I don't know. And I think each brush brand has its own way of labeling things. So I would just go to their website if you have questions about it, and usually the websites of those different brands will have information regarding different uses of their products and things. So, but that's just my
Okay. Good job, better
Very
answer than
quick
mine, I think.
observation there.
I mean, mine was pretty accurate, but probably not as relevant to what we're
Probably
doing here.
not relevant to art. Okay, so we've got a nice line there. Let's go ahead and put in our island. Let me get a little bit of the burnt umber now. A little bit of that phthalo blue, phthalo green, burnt umber, phthalo blue, phthalo green. And let's figure out where we want our island. So it's about maybe 1/4 inch down. Just going to scrub it side to side here. I'm going to scrub the reflection side to side too. So keep it thin and bring it off. This way. Don't know why I brought it up. I didn't mean to do that. Just try to keep it horizontal there. Should bring it out. Okay. And then a little bit more blue, a little bit more brown, maybe even a little bit of black. I want this to be a little bit different color than what is here. This is all backlit, so everything's fairly dark. And I want a little bit of separation there between these two, so I'm gonna do that. Let's bring this tree up here. I didn't do a very good job of leaving the tree trunk there, but that's all right. Let's do like that. Maybe do a little bit more on this side here. And get a little bit of the green, phthalo green with, I haven't cleaned out my brush, but I'm just mixing it into that blue that I had here and just doing a little bit of that on the top to give that a little color. Okay, now wiping this out and just using that in the water and do it side to side as I'm painting it and tapping it. I'm trying to get it basically the same shape as much as I can, but always kind of pulling side to side as I'm doing it, so I get that kind of ripply effect of the water. Okay, and I brought this down a little bit farther than I wanted to, so I'm going to get a little bit of my white, or my yellow, I mean. And I'm just going to come in here and create a water line right there. Okay. And I'm going to bring it up because it's angled, so I want it to be straight with the horizon line. Wipe that out. Let me get a little bit of my purple, blue, and blend that out a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and do this tree on this side. So I'm going to get my Deerfoot Stippler for the bigger trees. And, well, actually I want to do the part in the water here. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's do that. So getting the phthalo green, my burnt umber, burnt sienna, and some phthalo blue. And let's just figure out where we want to put this. So I want to leave about that much space between that and my island sticking out here. But this part comes out to about halfway. So kind of mark that about halfway. And just gonna tap it. Along the edge and then pull it back. in. This is just a little mossy bank that's happening. You could put water lilies in here. There's a lot of water lilies in the lake, especially the backwater areas of the lake. There's an area called Bonadilla near in our town that Spencer likes to go running in. It's even got its own alligator, beavers, all kinds of wildlife, but it has this area that's got these huge lily pads that I love to go. Just ginormous lily pads out in the water. So beautiful little park. Okay, so bringing this down, some reflections into the water here. This is the tree reflections that are kind of in front of this. So we'll do that. I think I need to have it coming up a little bit. Okay, this is just the dark area. We'll obviously add the green to it. And then it comes a little bit past this with just a few little grassy bits. I'm just going to kind of tap and slightly flick it upward and then sort of do the same thing coming down. Set it down, kind of flick upwards, and then try to get a few little reflections in there too. Nice. And there were some sticks and things in the original, and I used an AI filter to take them out. Boy, you can do so much with photos now so quickly. It was like literally took me maybe a minute before the show. I was like, I don't really like those sticks in there, and just like did the thing, and it was like, boop, they were gone. It's crazy. All right, so then we've got this island that kind of overlaps a little bit this, so it's coming up from here and about halfway to the island-ish, maybe a little bit closer to the island. So somewhere in here. And keep it flat. And then a little bit above it. And then there's a couple more. Peppered in there. And then speaking of the lily pads, there's some lily pads in here, but this is going to be all dark. So, and then this is all right above this, kind of pretty much, let me see, it's just below that. So, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Kind of where this one is. There's, it kind of angles back this way. Okay. And then we've got a nice large tree right here. So let's go ahead and get my Deerfoot Stippler for that tree. I don't know why I wet that down. You really don't want it wet. I need my paint wet though. Get a little bit more of that Phthalo blue and burnt umber, burnt sienna to tone this green down and make it really dark. I already had the phthalo green in here, so I just made it a little bit more teal. And I think it's going to be kind of just in this general area, cutting off to right about here. So just like right in here. If you want to draw it in, you can, just to help kind of keep your shape, but I'm just going to tap the border of it first where I know I want it a little bit more like loosey goosey and get that shape set and leave lots of this Lots of that showing through there. Let's see if it shows up. Yeah, somewhat. And then in through here it's solid. So I'm just really going to press down. Make that all fairly solid right there to the water line. And then to make it a little bit darker, I'm going to get a little bit of black and really add some darkness to it right here. We'll just let that set and dry.
Which Deerfoot are you using?
3/8 inch
Okay,
one.
thank you.
And then I'm gonna go in here underneath and try to mirror what I've done here. And same thing that I did over here, I'm gonna kind of like set it down and just slightly pull it to the side as I'm painting in these reflections. And here's our line for this reflection. So you start from where it touches to the ground. So here, and that's the top of my tree right there. Trying to get it lined up as best I can and kind of have an idea of how tall to go. So right in here. Okay, just like that. And then the rest of this is solid black. And leaving a little bit of that grass, that little bit of grass, because that's coming over. Okay, I might make that a little bit longer. I feel like it's and make sure your paint is wet enough, because it won't go on smoothly for you if it's too dry. So, too sticky. Just won't come off this brush smoothly. So you need to wet that paint down a little bit. It's almost like a liner brush in that way, or a fan brush even. And there's a little bit of reflection down here that we don't know what's coming from. But we'll go ahead and put that in too. Okay, I like that. Let's do this tree over here. Well, let's go ahead, now that this is dry, we'll go ahead and put our bright green on top. So I'm going to use the phthalo green and my yellows, both yellows. And I have this color still in my brush, so I want this color to mute this yellow. If I didn't have this in my brush, I would maybe add a little bit of the burnt umber to this color just to mute it a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and use the color from our sky to this yellow that we mixed up here. It's got a little bit of an orangey tone to it. And I need a couple of different greens here, so I need the kind of a mid-tone green, and then we'll go with the brightest green. So I'm going to start with the mid-tone and just dab in my kind of moss along here and try to create a little bit, some lines, some definition here. So don't cover all of the dark up, like leave a little bit of dark in the middle here and just go across. There we go. Let's do this on the island. This brush is way too big for this, but we're just going to work with what we got on our hand here. Turning my brush upside down, so I'm just getting the tip of it touching there. Okay, now I'm going to get that brighter yellow. I think I want it a little bit more intense. Yeah, there we go, more chartreuse. All right, so this is where I've got to be really, really careful because I don't want to overdo this color. Dab it in lines. Nice. And overlap them a little bit so it's not like straight across everywhere, but I like it. All right, what time is it? Ooh, we're getting close, 8 minutes. All right, let's see if we can get it. I don't know if we're gonna get it done in 2 hours this time.
Don't know if we're gonna have enough time to put a few thousand flowers on it. So sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's disappointing when that happens, but yeah, you could do lily pad and do some flowers down close, probably.
And you have a
Wanted to.
tutorial on that?
I do have lily pad tutorials. Several. Right, get some of that green. I'm keeping these smaller. That brush was way too big. It just was creating these large masses, which I lost my definition between that two. You can see now they look like one big lump. So I need a little bit more of that darker green color. And separate out that one from the one in front there a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Just have that lighter color at the top and then the darker color underneath, and that way it looks like it's shadowed. When I put this in, I kind of did it sort of sketchy on the bottom so that it looked a little bit like maybe a reflection, but if you don't have any reflection there, you can kind of try to drag some darker color down in your water to make it look like a reflection. There's some twigs and things up there you can add. Some little details to your thing if you want little things on your islands there. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and get a little bit of this color. Maybe not as light, but lighter, and pull it side to side there. And then right in here, there's some like lily pads and things in the water. So I'm gonna get the white and my light blue, and there's also some in here, and I'm just gonna dab in little reflective things there. Down in here, let's get some leaves and things going on there. All right, and then like right in here, there's a little bit of definition in those trees there. So let me get a little bit of that phthalo blue, burnt sienna, just a tiny bit of that unbleached titanium for like a little bit lighter color, and let's just kind of dab in some just a hint of something happening back there. Keep it dark though, and then you can kind of dab it in your water too if you need to have a little bit of that color in there. But there we go. And then we can go up underneath our lily pad areas and add a little bit of dark shadow to them too with this color. Get a little bit of that black. Figure out where my tree line is and just kind of sharpen that up if I need to. Okay, pretty happy with that. I'll go back in with this lighter color and dab in some. Those are way too big. I'm just going to use my paper towel and kind of dab them off. There we go. Tone them down a little bit. Much better. All right, let's do this tree here. I'm going to get a little bit darker reflections in my water over here on this tree, down here in the water too. Now I'm seeing right here, just a little bit in the reflection needs to be a little bit darker right there. Okay. Light green. And then if you need to darken up any of this, you can kind of come up underneath your light areas and sort of shadow back the underside of them. And that kind of helps set that light color down in the grass. So I'm just kind of not quite painting over, I'm just sort of like lightly glazing with a thin layer of paint, scrubbing the bottom of those to set them down into the scene. And got a little bit more bright green there. All right, that's nice. So those bright greens are nice within this scene because it kind of adds an unexpected color. And I kind of wish that I had done more with this. I'm going to do a little bit more with the water here before I finish this off. Get a little bit of the light blue. Just try to pull a few reflections across. And what you can also do on here, which is not in the picture, but I like to do whenever I'm painting water, is to take some Zinc White and just do some very fine little lines in an area that's dark that we know, is a reflection. It's just a nice way to differentiate, and we can use a little bit of white also, sort of like in our lily pad area here, to tap on, and kind of like what we did over here with that lighter color along the shoreline there. Just add a little bit of, just try to keep them straight-ish. Looks nice. And maybe here, like, establish a water line, separate out that shadow from the reality. Here's I'm not seeing much of a water line here, so I'm not going to worry too much about this. But let's go ahead and use this brush and create some of those lines. It'll be easier to do with this brush than with that thicker brush. And just do some lines, ripples in our water. going at a slight angle here. This part. Nice. Okay. And then one other thing we can do in our sky here is get some of our India yellow. Now that all this is dry, I can go up over some of it with my India yellow and add more of a golden hue to some of it. I'm noticing that my sky is a little bit more gold than I have in my paintings, so I can just adjust that color with a thin layer of yellow. And remember to put it in my water too. Maybe a little bit of that orange, slight orange tint too. See a little bit of that coming across, especially out from this here. A little bit of that orangey yellow color coming across. And just by keeping it transparent, I can do this without, it's not going to affect my island or anything like that. I might get a little bit darker. A little bit of blue, darker green, and kind of like somewhere in here there's some dark reflections happening out in the water. Pull that color across. Okay. All right. I think we can do this for days. There's so much going on in this painting. But I think we're getting close. We've got just this one last tree to do and we'll be done. How are we doing? Okay, so we're just a little bit over time. Not too bad.
There's no time limit during the off season.
During Oak Island season, I have to end before 8, so he has time to pull it up on cable. All right, so let's do this last tree here, and we'll be done. Until I find something else to do on it. But we get a little bit of the yellow and phthalo blue because I'm out of my phthalo green, but that's all the phthalo green is yellow and phthalo blue. I added a little bit of black just to make it dark. And we'll go up right in here. Get a little bit of water with that so it comes off my brush a little bit easier. I think this is actually a reflection, but I just realized that this is another tree that's on this bar here that's a reflection in the water. So there, and then there's a tree right here that's coming in front right here, so I'm going to make that a little bit more bright. Right there. And then there's dark down in this corner though. use my angle brush. Finally getting the angle brush out and using the, I'm going to get a little bit of white and add it to my green, yellow. Always add a little bit of yellow when you add white to your green if you want it to stay vibrant. And dabbing some little leafy shapes here.
Hey, real quick. What kind of level painting are we talking about here?
This one is definitely on the more advanced side, I think. There's just so much going on in the sky and things. The sky is pretty complicated. But you could simplify, you could simplify it. I do have some, I would probably do my beginner series that's just like 2 colors. It's the, it's like water reflection sky. I think it's the number 2 on the beginner basics series that I did a couple of years ago, which it's a water reflective painting, but it's got a very simple color scheme, and the reflections are, basically gray. Start with that, do that, get comfortable with it, and then tackle something like this. I definitely, I've tried to break it down in as simple steps as possible. So if you've painted a little bit and you feel, like tackling it, by all means, try it. I would say that, don't leave me mean comments. So if you can't. I got a comment the other day. It was just like, she stopped in the middle to show us on paper, and I messed mine up, and I'm like, I don't know how that's my fault, but okay. Like, yeah, so know your skill level, I think that, and also, know that it may not be perfect on the first go. So, that's why I do show you on paper, and highly recommend you practice on paper, so that you get comfortable using the materials and with the techniques and things until before you take it to a canvas, because it can be frustrating, and I get it. I feel bad for people who have struggle, because I've been there. When they're trying a painting that may be a little bit outside their comfort level. But also keep in mind that, it is a learning journey. None of us start out knowing how to do all this stuff perfectly. And so if you give yourself a little grace and let yourself, be a little uncomfortable with the process sometimes, that's how you grow. You have to be uncomfortable sometimes. You have to, there's no way to, get over the hump of learning something new without a little bit of discomfort, because it's not going to come easily right at first. So I try to make it as easy as possible to learn this stuff. But anytime you're doing anything new and you're not used to doing it, there's going to be some level of frustration and discomfort until you do it a few times, and then it starts to become more familiar, and you have a little bit of an easier time with it. So just because this is more complicated, I wouldn't make it stop you from trying, because you won't ever progress if you don't ever challenge yourself to try the hard stuff occasionally.
Yep, I have a few lingering scars from trying to learn to ride a bike. So
yeah,
it's part of the process, and as long as you're having fun
and learning.
Yep.
You're each time you do a new painting, you're learning something, and you'll get better at it the more you do. So, and it does take a lot of bravery and I don't say that lightly. You know, it does take a lot of bravery to try a new thing and to work at something, especially as an adult, because we don't like to feel out of control. We don't like to be, you know, not know what we're doing and
You
feel frustrated, you know.
at some point in your life, you feel like you should just be able to do stuff.
Right, right.
You're no longer a kid. You're no longer learning.
Right.
You just should know.
Yeah, and so much of our adult lives, we've been there, done that, and we are comfortable, and we have gotten used to that feeling of, you know, knowing how to handle situations, and getting into something like this, where that's all, you know, just very new and challenging, it can be really daunting. So, all right, I think that we're done.
Other than
Pretty.
Stickman,
Oh yeah, Stickman. Okay.
I'm not going to let this go.
Okay. Okay.
This is
No,
why
that's all
everybody.
right.
This is why everybody sat through the last 2 hours.
They were
Let's be
waiting
honest.
for Stickman.
Of course.
Okay. I'm gonna get a little bit of my Zinc White. I'm just gonna do a little bit more of a reflection in that water, but super fun. Thank you to Brandon Holt. He provided the photo. He's a local guy that friend of a friend. Not, I know him, but you know, not closely, but he's been very kind to let us use his photos here for a couple of our paintings, and he's got a really cool eye for photography, and his Instagram is linked down in the description. Wait, I might not have done it on.
I don't think on this one yet.
Yeah, I'll be adding it to the description. Sorry, I think it was on my to-do list and I forgot. So, but it will be there later if you're watching the replay. All right, so let me sign this, and yeah, we'll do Stickman real quick, and we'll be done.
Yeah. So, and then while you're signing it, we're still on schedule to do a painting sale.
We are.
The 21st of July, 2024.
Yeah. So we'll be posting in the Thankful Art group if you are, you know, if you have one of my paintings that you've been interested in buying, let me know, because, you know, it's not going to be like an auction style thing, so it's first come, first serve. But if you do have a painting that you've particularly been interested in, let me know, and I'll try to include it into the sale if I can, if I haven't sold it already, or if it's, there's certain ones, there's not that many, but there are certain paintings that I don't sell. So, and that's just personal.
So would the Flooster be up for sale?
I think so.
Okay.
Is somebody asking about it?
I'm negotiating a deal right now.
Okay.
With the bidding is starting at $1 million.
You getting royalties on the Flooster? Or
Yeah.
are you
So
getting a finder's fee?
We'll start at $1 million. We'll see where it goes from
Commission?
there. Yeah. I plan on retiring after this sale.
Yeah, you're hoping that. I don't know about that. We'll see. Okay, so there we go. That was fun.
Yes, it
I like
was.
that one.
It was a good tutorial.
Where is Stickman? Oh, is he? There he is. Okay.
Don't tell me you lost
All
him
right.
already.
He's got his bird and his foxglove,
Nice.
which was, I think, that's one that's not going for sale. That is one of my all-time favorite paintings that I've
It
ever
is
done.
sitting in the living room
Yes.
right now.
All right, so he's just going to be on a lake here, I guess. We'll just put,
Okay, just some reflections.
give some water. Stickman is our mascot. So, we're bringing him back from way back. We used to do these every painting. So.
Yeah. Back by popular demand.
This is for Karen. She was asking for him for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We miss her.
We do.
Yeah. Think about her a lot. And you all that show up week to week, you become friends.
Yes.
And even though we never get to see you or meet you in person, we do.
Unless it's in some
Feel it.
random store in Mississippi.
Yeah, did get to meet a fan.
But
That was
seriously,
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
We are extremely grateful for all of you guys. You guys mean a lot to us beyond.
Yeah, for years and years
Yes.
and hanging with us
Yeah.
and showing up in our videos
From
and
all different
that.
time zones. Some are late at night. Some are early morning.
Yep.
You guys are just incredible.
It's amazing. Really enjoy getting to bring these to you, and I truly do love it, and I hope you guys feel that, and I hope you know how much we appreciate you showing up, watching our videos, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff, sharing them, and showing up every week to do it again. So we are gonna I'll have a traceable for this available on Patreon. If you want to click that Patreon link down there, hun. Links are down in the description too. No, that's Thankful Art.
Sorry.
There we go. Patreon.com/AngelaFineArt. And we'll have the traceable for this. Also the high-res photos for you to use as reference photo in the finished painting. So you can use those if you're painting along. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching tonight, and we'll see you next time. Bye.